There's a lot to be done here. I think if people will experience what I have experienced, the nature, the roads, the clean country, the amazing food, the women that looks like they've been photoshopped, everything that is so beautiful in here, they will keep on coming here with filling in planes and coming here to Bosnia and Herzegovina to actually experience this. But above all, I've seen that you have everything you need in order to succeed, because the talent is here. The young generation is here, the know-how is here, and what I've seen is that you're doing it. You're writing fantastic startups. You're writing amazing code, but for somebody else. You're not doing it for yourself.
So Michael, first of all, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here.
I started with this kind of graduation too, because 2019, when I came for the first time in Israel, when I met you and when I saw what you are actually doing is so outstanding that I promised to myself, one day I'm gonna get this guy to Mostar. And finally, that day finally came.
I'm so happy that you did, because I didn't know what to expect, and I was overwhelmed by what I saw so far. So thank you very much for hosting me.
I'm so glad. So for our audience who meets with your name for the first time, we have Michaela Mizrahia, engineer and head of research and innovation and entrepreneurship authority from Azrieli College, Jerusalem. An outstanding institution, I must add. To our audience, can you explain a bit more about Azrieli? What do you do? What's your focus? And why is it so special? And why did it affect me? And I guess it will affect all of our listeners as well.
Thank you very much. Azrieli College is a college situated in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, one of the most important cities for all religious in the center of Israel, and it is teaching only engineering and technology for the last 22 years. We have 6 departments of engineering and 2 master's degrees, and I'm guessing that the reason that I'm here is because A2B Startup Accelerator that is located inside the college. A2B Startup Accelerator invites students, alumni, faculty members, people from Jerusalem and the area, people from Israel and from all over the world to develop a technological idea into a startup company. And we give them 5 tools to do it. We are supporting them with a co-office space, a very nice environment to develop an idea that they have into a company, anything they need physically from the coffee machine to the conference room. We are giving them an intensive program, and we are teaching them everything they want and everything they need in order to develop this idea into a startup company, given by 100 mentors that we collected along the 8 years of existence of the accelerator. And we teach them how to build their company, how to write the proper business model canvas or javelin board, and how to do a process called customer discovery, how to really understand their problem and the solution that they offer to this problem, how to deal with all the legal aspects of building a startup, from the contracts to the term sheets with investors, how to negotiate, how to present an idea in front of investor, all the business aspects of writing a business plan and go-to-market plan and so on. And this is given by a lot of experienced women and men that already did this process. And they are already running a startup or sold 1 or 2 startups or running a VC investment funding, angel investors themselves. a lot of experience that is actually brought and introduced to our entrepreneurs, allowing them not only to learn something, but also to get to know the ecosystem, the real leaders of the ecosystem. The third tool that we're giving is full academic support. We take advantage of the fact that as an engineering college, we have a lot of tools, and they are not used 100% of the time. Why not take advantage of those tools to actually initiate new startups? And we are giving any lab support that the entrepreneurs need. We can give them any lab, any 3D printing, any fabrication, robotics, electronics, materials, microscopy. They can borrow devices from the library. They can meet any professor. They can consult and even get interns to work for them. You know, in an engineering college, at the 4th year, you have to go through a process of understanding and how to facilitate whatever you learned for the last 4 years into a job. So the students might get experience by working with startups growing in the accelerator as a part of their academic agenda. The third tool that we are offering them is the help of our partners. We gathered a lot of companies, mostly international and local, to support the startups. We have on board Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, and Google supporting our startups with $1 million worth of cloud computing and software. Anyone can get it. You just need to be accepted to A2B. And we are helping with accounting with the help of Deloitte, and with banking with the help of Bank Hapoalim, and we have the 4 largest law offices supporting us with packages of law and lawyer support to the startups. And startups really need it. We have Indiegogo, the international brand, if you want to launch a campaign, but many other tools as well, like Dale Carnegie Israel, that are teaching our sales personnel in the startups. So I mentioned the co-working space, the intensive program, the help of our partners, and we also have and the full academic support. So we have 4 tools. The 5th is love. We love our startups, and we nurture them, and we support them in every possible way we can. So anyone can meet whomever he asks. If you want to meet the head of the Hotel Association in Israel, or the CEO of the biggest software house in Israel, or you need a tool, or you need a computer, anything that we can get you, we will get it to you, and we will support the startups. The end result of this program is 75 companies that raised over $60 million that are actually alumni of A2B Accelerator. And when you get in the accelerator, I always tell the entrepreneurs, you can get in, you can never go out. It's a family. We are going to support you from now till the end of time. And this family, this community, is actually the secret sauce of our program. Everybody knows that if you're accepted to A2B, it's something really, really strong that can support you, so you won't be alone in this road of being an entrepreneur.
During your speech, I mean, I definitely could see a lot of ingredients that could make our local startup, let's say, environment much better. But the thing that you mentioned, the last, was love. I believe that we can learn from that. First of all, just to refer to a bit the difference between Tel Aviv during the couple of days that we spent together driving around Bosnia and Herzegovina. You mentioned that Tel Aviv has the culture. What is the situation with Jerusalem, and how did you get to that idea to start it in Jerusalem, which is on the other side, you know, more traditional, cultural and religiously oriented, multicultural, comparing Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, it's like comparing East and West. And I believe there were some challenges for you. Could you tell us how did you deal with the mentality of the people in Jerusalem to make them think and act similarly to the minds of Tel Aviv?
So I think this is a story that is worth telling because it's something that you can learn from. It's something that you can duplicate. It's something that you can actually imitate. Tel Aviv is a wonderful city. 6,000 startups on one boulevard, Rothschild's Boulevard. You can go from one hub, from one accelerator, from one co-working space to the other. You can see in coffee shops entrepreneurs sitting down and writing code. This is a real culture that you cannot imitate. You cannot bring over in a flashlight 6,000 startups. It doesn't work like that. But you can definitely do what we did in Jerusalem. Tel Aviv is the center of the country in terms of high tech. Everybody knows it. It's graded as the most expensive city in the world and has more startups than any other place except the Silicon Valley. Jerusalem was a different story. Jerusalem is the biggest city in Israel, populated with 1 million people almost. And it has a variety and diversity of people. We are seeing Muslims, we're seeing Christians, we're seeing Jewish people, religious, non-religious, women, men, all sizes, all shapes, all ages.
Diversity level pro.
Yeah. And it doesn't lack any problems. You know, it has everything that you want to believe as a problem: political, religious, age, different sexes, whatever you want, you have it in Jerusalem. And we see this diversity as a key ingredient. We see it as something that can really support innovation. If you take two people and they're very, very similar in background, they won't tell you different questions, different answers to the same question. They're probably also thinking alike. And we need different opinions. We need different point of views to solve a problem, especially if it's a big problem. So what we had in Jerusalem is a situation where we didn't have the support of the government, of the municipality, not because they didn't want to support it, not because they didn't like the ecosystem of startups, because it didn't exist in their point of view. We had to do something to change it, and I was privileged to be invited. I was not the leader of this non-profit, but a very significant organization in Jerusalem called Made in Jerusalem, 3,000 years of innovation. This is its slogan, and I was invited at the very beginning of the foundation to be a board member to this group. And I'm still operating under this hat. And what we do is collecting, connecting, and branding. We collect the know-how about the city of Jerusalem. And when we started, we only had 37 early-stage companies, 37 startups. And now it's over 800. And this is not because anything that I did in particular. It's because the community worked together. And this is something to learn about ecosystem. Working together works.
Is there any recipe? What does a good ecosystem what's a good ecosystem made of?
So we talked a lot while I was here about the culture, about the difference in culture. And a good ecosystem is the cure for some of the problems with embracing the culture of the entrepreneurial mindset. Because when you have an ecosystem, you see that you're not alone. When you have community, you see that you're not alone. And being an entrepreneur is somehow or in some sense being alone. You're not supported by anyone. I always give the phrase that you wake up with your pajamas, you don't go to work, you sit down in front of the computer, you write some code, and your father and mother tells you, what are you doing? Go find a job. Nobody understands what you're doing, and you shouldn't listen to any of this. You should go and hang out and learn and exchange experiences with people of your kind, with entrepreneurs.
And we have, particularly here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I believe it's a regional matter, this culture of failure. Yeah. So if you fail, you are labeled as a failure, yeah, which totally disencourages you in any attempt to do anything by yourself anytime. Uh-huh. So added on top of that, the heritage of the communism regime that ended 30 plus years ago here, when our parents of the younger generations, they were actually educated and raised in the system which was pretty much in a way taking care of all of your basic needs. Once you're a good student and you finish your studies, then you go to have a public job and you work there pretty much till your retirement. And those kind of parents with this mentality, my parents, for example, the first are in that kind of line, taught me always, son, just go and finish the university, then you will find a good job in post office, and you will one day be the chief. I didn't know about Microsoft. I didn't know about the entrepreneurship. I was totally not aware of all the potential that it gives of being an entrepreneur. I just knew, okay, put me in one row and I will wait my turn till I get the job somewhere in a public institution. That's a dream of my parents, and of course every parent wants to transfer their dreams to their children, and we inherited that kind of thinking. So together with that, if you mix it with the failure culture, it is totally, how to say, getting you in a standstill, in a position where you are totally disencouraged to do anything. How do you, in Israel, in Jerusalem, deal with the mentality? Maybe even to refer, maybe there is a cure for us, I guess, for this kind of mentality, I believe. And how do you deal with the failure culture?
So failure in Israel is very important. It is considered to be a value for people. So I'm on top of what I do at the college and of course at A2B Accelerator that I founded. I'm also running a VC, the deal flow in a VC, and I'm actually helping launch it capital, a VC, to invest in startups. If we see startups that in its background had a startup and failed tremendously, this is a huge advantage for us. It means that he knows the industry. He had one round, he learned, and now he's not going to do the same mistake that he used to have. So learning from mistakes is super, super important. There's a lot of communities in Israel. One of them is called, excuse my French, fuck up nights, where you invite, it's an international brand. We invite very successful people not to tell about their success story, but about their failures and how tremendously they failed. If you are successful, you cannot learn anything from it. You can only learn from failure. And in A2B and in the accelerators all over Israel, they're teaching the lean methodology, which means actually go, fail, learn, and adapt, pivot, change until you make it perfect. Fail fast, learn faster. This is what we teach. Failure is fantastic. You did something, you failed, dust yourself up and try again. This is the method, this is how you do it. And I give a lot of examples on how good products that we already using and that we cannot live without are actually failing all the time. And they know The producers, the software engineers, they know it's not perfect. Windows 95 was not perfect. They changed it to Windows NT and then to Windows 10 and so on. And are constantly learning how to adapt, how to change, how to learn our usage and change accordingly and make it even better. It's a constant process of learning your customers, changing your product accordingly. You failed once, it's fantastic. You learned the most when you fail. And this is something that culturally needs to be actually absorbed. It's something that that we know, and actually when you will meet an investor, hopefully one day, I'm calling, of course, to the entrepreneurs that are listening to us, you will see that he wants to see some kind of experience in your field. In entrepreneurship, failure is a part of the job. 95% of startups will fail. Some of you, I guess, most of you will fail. And it's not because you did something wrong. This is the statistics. It's 95%. But when you succeed, oh my God, you do it big. And this is why we are here. We are here to do it and to create the most amazing thing out of thin air, to wake up in the morning and create something that we believe in, to solve somebody's problem and to make it big. So failure is a super important part of the process. Another thing that is true, yes, we have our families, yes, we have the traditional thinking, the old political ideas that were in our minds for centuries, but people are now open to the world. They have mobile phones that gives them everything in a second. Recently, I had a video taken of me about A to B, and it was half a minute for TikTok. I showed it to my daughter, and she said, "Daddy, it's too long." 30 seconds. People do not have the patience to wait 30 seconds to watch a video. This is how it goes. I have to adapt to this. So if you are changing your mindset so much, if you want to learn something, you're not going to libraries, you're going to YouTube, probably you have to learn how to adapt to failure and how to embrace it as a part of your path towards success. In Jerusalem, we did three things. We did collecting, we did connecting, and we did branding. Jerusalem was not on the map of the startup world at all. We collected all the data that we had about the city, about the different operators, about the different hubs, about the different accelerators, and we decided together to work together to make more of those things. Because an ecosystem is not one accelerator that is the leader. It's not one hub that there is no other competition. It's about a lot of them, so people will come because they know that the scene is here in Mostar, and you have to create this. So we collected all the data. We actually branded the city as the next best thing for startups, however we could. And of course, we saw results of this collecting, connecting, and branding when Jerusalem is now considered the next best thing for startups in Israel and one of the best centers in the world.
Fantastic. Based on that, I have to tell you that Bosnia and Herzegovina is familiar with the startup mentality and with this kind of ecosystems. I personally don't believe it is a success. During the previous 5 or 6 years, I believe there were several incubators, accelerators, not only in Sarajevo, but as well in Mostar. And it is sad to say that there are not that many success stories. Of course, the ratio of not being a startup oriented at all to have at least one startup is tremendous. It's good. but we do not have, let's say, a long-lasting, successful company, and yet to say a unicorn company. I believe that we miss some roots in the mentality, in the way of our thinking, in the direction we think, and pretty much, we are oriented with the startup mentality. Everybody's oriented to the young people, young population, young generation, students that just are finishing their universities, their colleges. And what would be your advice, a pragmatic approach for students when they are starting their own startups? What to do? Is it to quit maybe an opportunity for a job, a steady, well-paying job, or and to start working on their startup immediately, or is it just pick a side?
So for a long time, I heard that investors are saying to entrepreneurs, I want to see you committed. I want to see you 100% in the business. Take the risk. I'm putting my money into it. Leave everything that you do, and be a startup. Otherwise, I won't be investing in you. And I say it's an irresponsible thing to say with 95% failure. So, in my opinion, there is no problem with starting at the very beginning with part-time entrepreneur. Take the job at the post office. It is finished at 4 o'clock. Sit together in a hub with your friend. Work until 12, until 2 in the morning. Create the best gift that you can give yourself, a startup. Something that you can deliver later on to maybe your kids. And when you start with this and you have this passion and you can give the time and you are dedicated and in love with the problem, not with your solution, not with the software that you want to write, but with the problem. You want to solve the really urgent and really important problem that you are in love with. Then, of course, later on, you will also get a client who are willing to pay for it, or an investor who are willing to invest in it, and then leave your job. There's nothing better to actually leave your job and go do what you believe in and dream about. But you don't have to do it right away. So this is my point of view about going into this. And I totally understand what you're saying about accelerator that was opened and later on you find out that, okay, it's just an office space now for rent. The hard work of operating an accelerator is a huge challenge. It's not the nice sofa and a coffee machine. It's the content that you get there. It's the connection and the community that you created and have to maintain. And it's the love that we spoke about before. This will take a lot of challenges, a lot of energy and resources out of everyone. And let me tell you, it's not enough. What I've learned from the different countries that I'm going and building accelerators at, whether it's Germany, Czech Republic, Macedonia, Montenegro, whatever, Serbia, is that you need an infrastructure to support ecosystem. Ecosystem will start, of course, by young ideas, not necessarily young people, and I will go into this. But accelerators is the first thing. Even before accelerator, maybe an entrepreneurship club that is gathering people, that is encouraging them and showing them a model of success, not necessarily in technology. It could be a supermarket chain director that can tell them a little bit about what it is to be an entrepreneur and to pay salaries to people. And then later on, after learning about it, getting into a pre-acceleration program, getting the application ready. How do you make an application out of an idea and some slides on PowerPoint? And then into accelerators, and then you have the deal flow of accelerators. But when you finish accelerators, if you don't have the investment club that you can pitch in front of it. Or if you don't have an incubation program like in Israel, supported by the government, you will lack a very important stage from acceleration to scaleration, to scale up. From acceleration to incubation, you will lack this stage. And then you won't be able to get to what we call stage A and B, and later on exit. And a success story of a billionaire sold his unicorn to IBM or Microsoft. So you have to have all those bricks. We together can decide on how to do the first bricks, but there has to be a movement, there has to be a motivation, also within the municipality, within the regional leaders and communities, and later on with the government. The government needs it, otherwise some other countries will buy it. They will extract it from here, overseas. And right now what they are extracting the most is your young people and talent. If you are if you're getting 1,000 euros while you're a software engineer, it's going to be very tempting to go to a country that can pay you 10 times as much. It's very logic, and the country will lose the young generation to other countries. They will lose the workforce, they will lose the economy because of the statement and the state of mind that you mentioned before, and I think nobody wants it. So one way to do it is actually to use the experience of someone else. What I always...
Partner up.
Yes. And this is something that I do here now with the University of Mostar, and I hope to actually encourage it and promote it even more.
Fantastic. I mean, first of all, it's a wonderful news to have you here for a longer period with our University of Mostar. Speaking of which, we spent a couple of days in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is your first time in BIH. First impressions?
I was firstly amazed by the beauty of this country. It is a real gem in the world, and it's not well known for that. And I think that's a shame. There's a lot to be done here. I think if people will experience what I have experienced, the nature, the roads, the clean country, the amazing food, the women that looks like they've been photoshopped, everything that is so beautiful in here, they will keep on coming here with filling in planes and coming here to Bosnia and Herzegovina to actually experience this. But above all, I've seen that you have everything you need in order to succeed, because the talent is here. The young generation is here, the know-how is here, and what I've seen is that you're doing it. You're writing fantastic startups. You're writing amazing code, but for somebody else. You're not doing it for yourself.
Do we lack innovation?
You don't like the innovation, you like the state of mind of innovation. You have everything you need. If you're solving a problem for any other software company and being a service provider, why not do it for yourself and build a company that worth millions? This is something that is only changing of a set of mind. It's not that you can't do it, you're doing it, but for somebody else with lower price of money. So you can do the most with your own ability. You have everything needed. And I've seen students at universities developing softwares and learning by themselves React and other amazingly new platforms. And I immediately knew they learned it themselves. They didn't learn it from their professor. Don't feel bad about it. We cannot teach their students as well. In most cases, the professors are not as updated as the students, which goes to show you that you have everything needed in order to develop amazing solution to problems. Another advantage that you have, and we don't have in Israel, you can go into a car, fill in the tank, and drive wherever you want. sell your software in Germany. You have the physical ability to actually go everywhere. You're connected to other countries. You're not like Israel, isolated in not such a friendly neighborhood. Yes, you have problems. Yes, you have multinationalities. Yes, you had difficulties in the past, and a lot of the city parts are actually scarves of what was used to have to be here a war. But other countries are suffering the same, or suffered in the past, the same situations. We can only know what's going on today in the news. And I think, for example, Ukraine, that was the main supplier of software engineers, are now suffering from a lot of difficulties, and not the easiest time they had in the world. And of course, all the other countries are looking at it also as an opportunity to promote the young generation and the software engineers that they have within. So anything you need to succeed is already here. You just need to open your eyes, and this is the easiest task of all.
I believe that there is something that locals don't see with their own sane eyes. I mean, you're not the first Israeli that came to Mostar. Of course, there are many examples of very successful Israelis here in Mostar, and not to mention all Bosnia and Herzegovina. In my conversations with them, which were unfortunately not recorded, that's why I decided to record this conversation with you as much as possible, all of them said one thing in common, and that's, Marko, you are living in a paradise on earth. How can you not see that? I mean, I very often I use this one mental picture, which I have to describe now to our listeners. Of course, I cannot show it, but I have to describe. One of Israeli entrepreneurs that is a huge success here in Mostar. Once he came during the COVID, when nobody was on the road, he was that brave to go to the canyon of our river Neretva, and he took a picture of a canyon. He went literally to touch the river himself, and he took a picture of the river. And the picture was looking like the river was in the middle. From one side it was a rocky beach, a beige color, on the other side as well. From both sides it was framed with green forest, and then on top blue sky. Of course, the river is the emerald color, which gives it a really like a picturesque feeling. And he sent that photo to me and said, "Oh my God, this is such a beauty. This is a paradise. How do you not see it yourself?" And I took that picture and photo and showed it to my wife. And I asked her, "Tina, take a look. Please take a look. Look at this guy. He sent a picture of a sewage pipe, which was 1.5 meters wide, with the sewage draining into the water. He didn't see it, as like I and my wife didn't see all the beauty except of that."
Yeah.
We're the locals of Bosnia and Herzegovina, all around Bosnia and Herzegovina people. We take a lot of these things for granted, We don't see some things in front of us with our own sane eyes. And then, we decide to switch. We decide to leave the country. We decide to go somewhere else. And it's unfortunate to say, but during the last 15 years, we lost hundreds of thousands of people that went to work to Germany. I mean, they found their happiness there. They're working in good and steady jobs, high-paying jobs. I wonder, what do you think that emigration is? Is it maybe an opportunity for us as well. Because the second thing that I learned from foreigners coming to Bosnia and Herzegovina is to see opportunity in pretty much every challenged situation that we are right now. Could it be the opportunity?
So one of the stories that I told you is that during my work, I had the opportunity of visiting one of the poorest, if not the poorest, country in Africa. And actually, I visited several of them. And so it appears that about 85% of them, they don't have running water. They don't have electricity. But what's amazing about those countries, they have fantastic cellular system. Every per person has a smartphone. Every payment is done with the smartphone. The salary is going directly to the smartphone. Loans from one to another, payment from one to another, everything is done with the smartphone. They don't have the electricity to charge the smartphone. So a bicycle operating a dynamo, it is creating electricity to charge it, or you see a lot of people using motorcycle with cars batteries to recharge it for a few dollars. When you have nothing, you can do anything. If we needed to apply this system of fintech, financial technology in Israel, it would be impossible. But when you don't have any other solution, and this is the only solution to cover all Africa with payments, it is working. The opportunity hides not where you have things, but where you don't have them. And this is something that I even apply myself. So it means that if I want to sell my accelerator, the A to B accelerator, I cannot sell it in Israel. You have plenty of them in Israel. I have to go somewhere that needs this help. I have to fall in love with my problem, which is entrepreneurship, ideas, ideations, and how to create startups out of thin air. So I tell those people who are thinking to leave to Germany, there's no feeling like home. You might get, a good salary, but there's something about home. And you see people that have already been successful, trying to come back, trying to create something in the home city that they lived in their natural environment, in their culture, because it goes beyond just few more dollars. Whatever you want to do and however you want to be successful, you can do it over here, even if for now it seems like a little bit more difficult. And moving to another state is also very challenging and consumes a lot of energy and a lot of resources. I love working in Israel. I think it's my base. And without being successful in Israel, it would be very hard for me to be successful in other countries as well. So my own experience is just use the resources that you have in front of you first, and then think of other ways to do it. And we mentioned before, people are trying or thinking that startups should come from students that just finished their studying. And it's true, there is an option to do it. Those people are very bright. But in fact, most of the startups in Israel are based on some kind of more deep knowledge. And you have it here. You have academic institute. You have the heritage. You have the research that you did so far. So taking the research of faculty members together with students, together with master's students and PhD students, and implementing it and writing patent and creating spin-offs is the way, or the best way, to bring to the world something with a little bit more depth and value, academic value, and then to spin it off to startups. Of course, there can always be a mobile application or a system based on the know-how of students, but it can also be supported by a more depth research and methodology that you have here working very well in the academia.
I couldn't help but notice on one of your lectures to the students, you asked how many of you have an idea that could potentially be a startup. Nobody rose its hand. Nobody. And your comment was interesting for me. If we were in Israel right now and I asked this question, everybody would have risen his hand. Why do you think it's that much different here? I don't believe that the students don't have the ideas.
Yeah. This fear is of actually acknowledging that, yes, I actually encounter a problem and said to myself, I wish I had this mobile application to solve my problem. Or, yeah, I have an idea. I know how to do things better. And this is something that is actually embedded in us. If you're unhappy from a situation, if you say, oh, this system, this municipality, this public office, this bank, this insurance company is not doing it the way that they should, I wish it was simpler, this is exactly it. Why not create something to help you out with this? Why not offer those people some kind of a solution? Be a B2G, business to government. Be a B2B, business to business. Operate something, develop some system for insurance company, for a bank, for a car rental agency, for whatever you want, for sharing things. So in Israel, it's so embedded in the culture not to like what you have and try to improve it, that it is more approachable and it is almost mandatory to actually challenge the authority. You say, why is it only you that decides? I can also decide.
Exactly. I believe that's one of the problems we have. You know, we are using the politics as an excuse not to do pretty much anything. You know, if I have an idea, you know, and that idea in any percentage includes some governmental area, you know, no, it's not going to happen because, you know, it's government and we cannot do there anything, and so on and so on. We're using the government as an excuse. I mean, me personally, when starting ITO, the company of software development, we started as a product-oriented company. You know, we had some of the projects that were products for the local market. But, you know, we had our difficulties with it, you know, but I believe it was not just because of the politics. It is because the fear of accepting and implementing something new. So this is something very common to pretty much every country, every society, every civilization, pretty much, you know, always the fear of something new and how to implement it. But when that something new is something totally new, something cutting edge, something innovative, then how to approach to that? You know, should I even do it or not? You know, it's such an innovation that I immediately judge it to a failure in the beginning before even starting working on it. So that kind of an idea stays as an idea, and you know, it just gets buried there.
Yeah. So actually, as we always teach the entrepreneurs a day to be, an idea without execution worth nothing. Ideas in the drawer will not grow into money. It doesn't mean anything. This is why entrepreneurs in Israel are not afraid of telling their ideas in public, because they're not afraid of somebody who's going to steal it. Everybody has ideas. It means nothing. If I'm going to execute them, then they will be worth something. And by the way, ideas that are not perfect at all and not really brilliant with amazing execution will do much better than an outstanding idea with no execution or with poor execution. So this is first. And whenever people are telling me, yes, but we are the generation who is running the country, are very old, and the leaders are not doing that or this, and they are all, people that you need to actually challenge are 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. I say, yes, but they use the smartphones, don't they? They adapted so strongly to the smartphones, they're completely addicted to it. So if they can have something to make their life better, more efficient, if it will be connected directly to their success, they will buy it. They will buy it. So when that is the first thing. And even when you developed your own software company, you approached governmental clients, potential clients. And if they are not buying it, and it's so innovative, let me tell you something. The world is waiting for it. When we are developing something in A to B, and someone is saying, I'm going to sell it all over Israel, I'm saying to him, if you're going to continue on saying this sentence, you will be out of the program. We're not selling it in Israel. We're selling it to the United States, to Western Europe, Germany, India, China. Give me a market. Don't think small. Don't think about here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Don't think about the Balkans. Think big. Is this a need that people might need? Or maybe something that will be developed for, I don't know, the local police office will only be answered with, I don't think we can implement it. But in the United States, they might really love it. You have to be in love with your problem and actually participate, even online. Now it's free and it's available. In convention, in the subject that you're dealing with, try to really learn the problem and fall in love with it, as I mentioned. And then for sure, you're going to find someone who's interested. It's not, maybe here it's not going, but it's okay. It's a small market. The world is very big. And don't forget and don't be afraid to pivot your hotel, to your idea, to change it a little bit. It's okay. Most startups pivoted from one idea to the other, if not 5 times, maybe 3 times. It's okay. It happens all the time.
You know, you were talking about the problems. We were mentioning opportunities. And during my, let's say, 13 or 14 years of experience in business, you know, I learned to switch the word problem with the opportunity. It was a long trip, of course. I didn't know that from the beginning. But, you know, nowadays we can say that world is facing with some of the biggest opportunities. And this is COVID.
Yeah.
How did Israel, being pretty much in a deadlock for 9 months, I believe, how did Israel deal with that opportunity?
So, in fact, 2021, 2020 were the best years for Israel economically. Israel did very, very well. The investments that came in were huge, better than any other year before that. And the reason is obvious. COVID is a catalysator for processes. It makes things faster. We know that every store in the street should have another store, which is digital store. We knew that it's going to happen. Here came COVID and pushed it even further on faster. This is an opportunity for you. If you have a pizza place and you are only selling burek on the streets and you don't have the delivery system that you're working with, you don't have a website, why not have it? If you have a shoe store and you already have the inventory, why not sell it online? Why not deliver it all around the world? You can make more money. And when COVID came and everybody was in total lockdown, we had and still have the very strict policy about COVID. You can't enter anywhere without a mask. It was really difficult to, at the beginning, it was impossible to go out of the house. Digital stores, any physical store that had a digital platform aside of it, went skyrocketing high. All the others were actually in a big problem. And this is going to happen. If not now, maybe in 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a different pandemic. The world knows now that it needs to get ready for those situations. And this is your opportunity in creating the entire economy over here with another layer of digital platform. So, of course, challenge is also an opportunity, and the problem is also an opportunity. And Israel made the most of it, in my opinion, because if you needed to use digital services immediately, 3, 4, 5 times better or bigger, you needed more cybersecurity, you needed more software, you needed everything. So technology is and was ever the answer for COVID. Even the vaccine and the system of following people that needs to be in lockdown until they are better, or even registrations of who took the service. Everything is computerized nowadays. So we found ourselves in a cross section where we have the solutions that the entire world is looking for. And it goes everywhere. If you see infrastructure, it's smart homes and it needs computing. If you see the medical systems, medical devices are now mainly a computer with some other elements. If you see insurance, it's insurance tech. Financial and banks, fintech. In every situation, every field, technology is taking a bigger and bigger part. Everything will be social. If a business will not have a social aspect in it, he will not have the right to exist anymore. Cars are going to be shared, infrastructure is going to be shared, office space is going to be shared, shared economy. We're now in the middle of a war in Ukraine, but in fact, the real war is with the climate. The climate is a real issue. Everybody knows it, and trying to actually do something, if not to solve the problem, at least to adjust and manage it for the next years. So there's a lot to be done here. It's not nearly enough. The tools that we have today is just a fracture of what we can achieve, and we see it also in big companies that are changing. Take for example, Facebook being a meta company now, and using a different kind of, if you want, economy, which is totally virtual. There's so much that you can do, so many things that you can incorporate yourself with, your knowledge and experience, and definitely a lovely country. So that's something that you can take advantage of.
I cannot let you pass with mentioning the digital economy. I cannot let you pass, not saying your opinion about the Bitcoin and or the cryptocurrencies. What's your experience, and what kind of future do you think is in front of us regarding that?
So we've heard for many years that, it's just a bubble that is going to burst. But in fact, like anything, it's the new economy, and it's a part of the new economy. The cryptocurrencies, of course, some of them are going to disappear, others are going to raise. And I think regulations might not say the last word about it, but I think it's inevitable to understand that it is a new and very significant part of the new economy, and people should learn about it and understand it and realize that it is something that will catch bite at least a part of the old economy. And it is like anything, looking at the world in a different perspective. They're not looking at countries and borders. They're not looking at central bank of Israel or the central bank in the United States. It's looking at the population, at the economy, and again, the community. So it's something that you can share. Blockchain technologies are what we called a solution looking for a problem. It is so good, we don't really know what to do with it yet, but now and then you see that everyone is using it and embedding it in their solution because it's so smart and it can do so much for us in many, many, many fields. So more than crypto, just blockchain as its own is doing amazing things around the world. We're going to see a lot of activities rising in this direction.
Wonderful. I have to ask you one question, which I oftenly get asked. In our company in ITO, we do have like these Ask Me Anything days. So one of the questions that our employees constantly ask is a book to recommend. We're talking to the younger generation. We're talking to some, innovative minds. We are talking about a lot of enthusiasm in front of us. And in order to make that all a reality and to make the ideas reality, to start with startups, to have this encouragement to start something on their own, is there some book that you would recommend?
So actually, I find it very difficult to choose one. I would recommend a couple of them. We talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was influence for me as well. I love The Startup Nation. It's a book about the state of Israel and why is it so unique. It gives you all the reasons and not just some of them, like I did here. And it was written by a soul singer and Dan Snore. And it's available in every language. So it's also an ebook, so you can listen to it. It's a wonderful book. Another book that I really love is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I also want to recommend a YouTube channel called Startup One-on-One. Every idea that you want, every phrase that you want, every situation is actually explained in such a nice and graphic way with short videos that can teach you anything you want to know. Startup One-on-One on YouTube.
Wonderful. We are getting to the end of our first podcast together. I hope this is not the last. We're going to see each other much more. So, on behalf of all of our audience and behalf of ITO and IBC, I would like to thank you for being our guest, not just a guest of this podcast, but as well a guest in Mostar, somebody who I believe will do his share to help out Mostar and this community regarding the startup mentality, startup environment. What else to say? A man, a living legend, Michaela Mizrahia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who got me here, all the partners, Vlad and yourself, and I'm honored and humbled to be invited to be a guest professor at the University of Mostar. I'm looking forward to meeting you, all of you entrepreneurs that are listening to me now. Come consult. I'm here to help you. Thank you very much for having me also here in this podcast. Thank you very much.